In this video, we look at the mysterious death of Rodney Marks that took place at the cold and desolate area known as the South Pole. Rodney was born in Geelong, Victoria, Australia. He would graduate from the University of Melbourne and later move to get his PhD in astronomy from the University of New South Wales. Rodney would land a great job with the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory, working at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station on the Antarctic Submillimeter Telescope. As one might think, the station is very remote, being located at the southernmost point under what the United States sees as their jurisdiction. Though this is disputed by New Zealand, who sees it as belonging to them. Rodney would spend his first winter on the base during the 1997 and 1998 season. He would enjoy his first trip there so much, he would want to do a second. This brings us to May 11th of the year 2000, the day that Rodney's troubles all began. Rodney would become unwell after walking from a research building to the main building. It was during this walk he began struggling to breathe. His vision became blurred, and he became overwhelmingly tired. So much he would go to bed much earlier than he usually would. Unfortunately though, sleep did not help him, as his symptoms only got worse with time. Waking up at 5:30 a.m. the next day, on May 11th, he would vomit blood. This would get him to see the on-site doctor, Robert Thompson, whom he would visit 3 times over the next 36 hours. And with every visit, Rodney would only get sicker and sicker, with his list of symptoms growing. He now had to wear sunglasses, as his eyes had become sensitive to most light. His mental and physical state had also completely deteriorated. This would lead Dr. Thomas to believe that it was maybe an anxiety attack, as this is a somewhat common thing to happen on bases in the South Pole. This would lead the doctor to giving Rodney a shot, filled with an antipsychotic on his 3rd visit, hoping that maybe it would calm Rodney down. Only minutes after receiving the shot, Rodney would lay back in his chair. His breathing would become slowed, and unfortunately, he would go into cardiac arrest. And at 6:45 p.m., after 45 minutes of resuscitation attempts, he would be declared dead. He was 32 years old. At first, no one knew how he had died, with the initial statement saying that Rodney had died from unexplained natural causes. Though a complete and thorough autopsy couldn't be done, as the winters are so harsh in the South Pole, it is almost impossible to get people out during an emergency. So Rodney's body would stay in the South Pole for almost 6 months. Once Rodney's body was able to be moved, it would be flown to Christchurch, New Zealand. And it would be here where we would get our biggest shock. After a complete autopsy was done, it showed that Rodney was completely healthy, except for having been poisoned by methanol. This would lead to some people dubbing this case as the first South Pole murder, as a suicide was already ruled out. This is because Rodney had sought out treatment for his illness. He showed no signs of mental health problems. He had no financial problems. He had already previously worked at the South Pole and was already used to the environment. And most importantly, he was supposed to be married soon to his fiancée Sonia Walter, who was also overwintering at the base as a maintenance specialist as to be with him. An investigation would quickly take place by detectives part of the New Zealand police force. They had quickly determined that it was very unlikely that Rodney had knowingly drank the methanol. This is because there was no reason to try and make alcohol, as the base had a very well-stocked bar at the time. Rodney was also a very well-experienced drinker. He would know not to drink random liquids that were just laying around, and that when he did get sick, he acted just as bewildered as everyone else, which points to he had no clue as to why he was sick. So with all this, people became suspicious of the others that were there, with a finger being pointed at Dr. Robert Thompson. Many people were critical of the treatment that he gave to Rodney, most notably Dr. William Silva, who worked at another base on the Arctic station not too far away. He would look over the medical notes left by Dr. Thompson and point out that he did not use the ectochrome blood analyzer that was available at the base. This machine would have detected the dangerous levels of methanol in Rodney, though Dr. Thomas would claim he was way too busy trying to treat Rodney to use the machine, and that it was overly complicated to keep working and use. Although Dr. Silva would dispute these claims, saying that it was quite straightforward of a process. Dr. Thomas also didn't help things after not responding to the new claims made by Dr. Silva. In fact, he seamlessly fell off the earth after giving his testimony. Then, adding even further mystery to this case, detectives investigating would not get any help from the National Science Foundation. When asked about internal reports about Rodney's death, they would say they didn't have any reports that they deemed helpful. They also repeatedly ignored requests when asked for results of a lab test conducted on the evidence gathered from Rodney's room and workstation before they were cleaned. The National Science Foundation would dispute these claims, saying that they were completely cooperative with the investigation. So unfortunately, this leads us to the current end of Rodney's story, with no answers, just more questions. Such as, if it wasn't an accident, why would someone kill Rodney? And why the National Science Foundation would go to what looks like very great lengths to hide what happened to Rodney. These are all questions that can be discussed in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing.